That's me, transit operator. Some guys call us transit pilots. But as old Bill Shakespeare said, what's in a name? It's the job that counts, and how you like the job, and the way you do it. Me, I like this job. If I didn't, I never would have taken it. It's kind of funny, me sitting here as natural as a rabbit in clover, when just 4 months ago, I didn't know a control panel from an E-flat saxophone. Yes, sir, just 4 months ago. That was when I walked into the employment office and asked for an application blank. It was easy enough to fill in where you were born, are you a citizen, height, weight, age. You know, the usual questions. Then I had an interview with a personnel counselor. He told me of the medical and insurance benefits, pay and vacations. He explained, too, I had to buy a cap right away and a uniform in 3 months. Also, that I had to have a good, dependable watch. From there, it was the doctor's office. Well, I'm no Tarzan, but I was in good shape. My heart was pumping according to regulations, and I could read all the letters on the sight chart, even if I couldn't pronounce the sentence. And that ended the preliminaries. The following day found me in a classroom where the chief instructor told a group of us a little of the history of the company and answered the questions we had on our minds. I'll never forget the introduction to my cap. With the first try came a laugh, but with the second, a feeling of confidence. Operator Bill Weston. At the end of the class, we were assigned to the different divisions where we were to start our rough edge training. This training started in the division classroom. First, I was placed in front of dummy controls to become familiar with their use under operating conditions. Then, with another trainee, we met our rough edge instructor and the H4 model car, like this big 4-motor job. Rough edge is basic instruction in actual car operation. We started right in. The control handle, door lever, the reverse lever, the gall, the air gauges, the sander, the air brakes, the emergency brakes, dead man control. It wasn't long before I was doing ground loops. But that was only the beginning. We had to learn about switches, car lights, headlights, what to look for when something goes wrong with the car. Then we were outside, learning how to handle the trolley catcher. What to do if the trolley got off the overhead. By the end of the day, this H4 and I were really acquainted. My head was buzzing like a bee in springtime. While I slept that night, my dreams took over. Control handle, reverse lever, air brake, switch spot, standard, emergency brake, trolley catcher, H4, air gauge, dead man, control handle, reverse lever, air brake, switch box, fender, emergency brake, trolley catcher, H4, air gauge, dead man. Control handle, reverse lever, air brake, switch box, fender, emergency brake, trolley catcher, H4, air gauge, dead man. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. What a night. But the next morning and the next and the next, I was back at it again. When we knew the H4 pretty well, we were briefed on the streamliners, the newest and smoothest thing on rails. The controls are a little different than those on the H4, and your feet play a more important part of car operation. During rough edge training, there was plenty of opportunity to handle the controls. And while operating on practice runs, safety was one of the most important lessons. A streetcar isn't an automobile. It can't swerve, and it takes much more space to come to a smooth stop. Accidents are dangerous, expensive, and even fatal. You got to use your head, your eyes, and your hands. And take it for granted, every truck and automobile on the road is driven by a blind man. Carelessness on your part can cost you your job. Also on the practice runs, I learned how to throw an electric switch, how to use a crossover, what to do at railroad crossings, how to make a turn without taking along a few cars, and the careful observation of traffic signals. During those 4 days, I worked hard running safe car operation. With my rough edges knocked off, I went back to the classroom for a concentrated course in reports and handling of money. First, we were taught the operation of the fare box. When to use an outbound transfer, inbound transfer, which transfers are acceptable in the inner and the outer zones, the price of tokens, weekly passes, time schedules and how to read them, how to fill out trip sheets at the end of the day, the avoidance of unnecessary conversation, when it's permissible to pass up passengers, how to place an emergency call to the dispatcher's office when we were in trouble, and the importance of safety, courtesy, and service in all our dealings with our passengers. Then another instructor took over to explain safety factors to us, how to recognize accident traps, how to avoid accidents, and how to fill out accident forms if you did get into trouble. A motion picture was shown to illustrate accident traps. Here's one of the more common traps. As the streetcar approaches an intersection, an automobile speeds up alongside of the streetcar, and without warning, it cuts across in front of the car, causing a collision. Whether this accident was the operator's fault or not, he must have the names of his passengers. He hands out courtesy cards to the passengers and to any other witnesses available. Gets the driver's name, address, license number, and immediately calls the dispatcher's office. And then picks up the signed cards. When he returns to division headquarters, he gets an accident report, fills it out, and files it with the clerk's office. Remember always, safety is of utmost importance to your passengers, your company, and your job. Transfers, trip sheets, accident traps, safety, More and more, I was beginning to realize that it's a big job. Yes, it's a big job, and it requires lots of support. I got some idea of this support when taken on a tour of inspection. We get it all the way down the line, from the men who keep the engines in shape, to the electricians, upholsterers, body repair men, painters, maintenance crews, track men, clerks, dispatchers who receive emergency calls 24 hours a day, roving supervisors who go out on those calls, loaders who make loading operations easier at busy corners, and the line supervisors who help keep the entire system moving. All of them playing important parts in backing me up. It came to me then that they were depending on the man who accepts the dimes. The man who meets the public. The man who is actually the company's ambassador. In many ways, the most important man in the organization is the operator. After I'd learned something of the size of the organization in back of me, I was assigned to a line instructor to learn the routes in that division one at a time while on regular runs. Sometimes I handled the controls while the instructor took the fares. Other times the instructor took the controls while I fumbled my way through fares. I got a lot of practice in loading passengers, learning transfer points and time points, crossovers, fire stations, police stations, and call boxes. After a few days on this line, a division instructor came aboard and checked me out on what I'd learned. And I had a similar examination from the division instructor on every line in the division. At the end of my training period, I returned to division headquarters for a comprehensive examination of all I'd learned since I started training. I passed, and now I was really on the team. I looked on the schedule for the next day's assignment and found I was to start my solo run at 6 o'clock the next morning. Of course, I was there in plenty of time, as nervous as a bubble dancer in a shooting gallery. I checked out my transfers and the car number, copied down my time schedule, and headed for my car. I was proud as a peacock as I got ready for my solo run. Skipper Bill Weston takes over. Could swear I heard a fanfare. I'll never forget that first day. Without a line instructor, I felt like a naked orphan in a snowstorm. When those first passengers came aboard, it was like standing under Niagara Falls with a leaky umbrella. They all seemed to have $10 bills. They all wanted information and transfers. I had to take care of them and still keep the car on schedule. Even an octopus would have felt short-handed. It was that way all day. For a while, I was so groggy, every set of passengers seemed the same. And right there, I decided, you sure have to like people to make a success of this job. Some of them are late for work or appointments. Some are hungry. Some have tired feet, headaches, backaches, or they've guessed wrong on the races. But the minute you snap back at them, you're sunk. You got to keep smiling. Give everybody a chance to get on. Don't make them feel like criminals if their transfers aren't good. Along with everything else, you got to be a diplomat. It's no spot for a guy who is easily upset or anybody who doesn't want to do more than his share to get along with people. By now, I'd fallen behind on my time schedule. And, there's the supervisor. Here's where I get it, but good. But I found the supervisor was only there to help me. It seems we all have our troubles the first few days. He told me not to take chances in trying to make up time, to do my best to stay on schedule, but to remember that safety is even more important. Here was a swell guy to work with. Later, I found all the supervisors were that way. At the end of the day, I made out my trip sheet. Then turned my money into the cashier's office and checked on the extra board to find my next day's run. We new men were on the extra runs at first. That sometimes meant split shifts. Because traffic is heaviest in the early morning hours and in the early evening. Sometimes I had to report at 4 in the morning, but there were compensations too. I always get a big kick out of the dawn patrol, just when the town's beginning to wake up. By the end of the week, things were going easier. I was keeping on schedule, and the tension was easing up. After you've been with a company a while, you get a chance to bid on a regular run. It's all determined by seniority. A few weeks after operating the streetcars, I was sent to a bus division for coach instruction. The basic things were pretty much the same. Transfers, fare box, schedules, trip sheets, tokens. Naturally, there are certain differences in the controls. You've got a steering wheel instead of a control handle, while power and brakes are handled with these pedals. But the major difference is, with cars, it's steel on steel, and with coaches, it's rubber on pavement. That means a coach has more freedom of movement, and it stops much faster, and you've got to watch how you apply those brakes. But you're still operating on the basis of safety, courtesy, and service. Also, I was given line instruction on trolley coaches. Here again, the basic principles of schedules, fares, transfers, and reports were the same. The controls are pretty much like the motor coaches. The biggest difference is that you have a double trolley line overhead, which allows an operational leeway of 14 feet on either side. And to turn corners, you must slow down to 5 miles an hour, or your trolley will leave the wires. 4 months. I've learned a lot in that time. It hasn't been easy, but it has been interesting. That is, interesting for a man who likes working with people, all kinds of people. It's a big job, and it's an important job. Did you ever stop to think how necessary transportation is to a big town? Yes, lack of transportation can just about stop a town dead in its tracks. I'm really a pretty important guy. What do I get out of it? Plenty. First, security. Good times or bad, transportation is needed. So I know I've got a steady job with a definite future. A better than average living wage. Paid vacations after 1 year. Low-cost life insurance. Sickness and accident insurance. Prizes for safe operation on the job. Extra recognition for each year of safe operation. Recreation with my buddies. There's plenty of opportunity in this company for a guy who wants to make a real career out of it. I know I'm going up from here. And how fast I go depends pretty much on me. Yes, it really is a big job. All right, folks, all aboard.